The stars above the planet Zelter turned red, not from fire, but from fear. The Great Alliance, made of 12 powerful alien races, had gathered. They were ready to destroy Earth once and for all. The sky was full of warships. Each one was bigger than a mountain and louder than thunder. Every fleet commander stood proud. They believed this battle would be short, easy, and final. Earth is small, weak, and foolish, said High Admiral Creel of the Vorkan Empire. They dared to say no to our demands. Now they will be wiped from the stars. The command center on Zeltor was filled with buzzing sounds. Screens showed ship positions, heat readings, and battle readiness. Thousands of ships were moving into perfect formation. The galaxy's might was ready to strike. But then, silence. A signal came. But it was strange. One of the radar officers stared at the screen and said, "Sir, there's only one ship approaching." The room froze. Creel laughed. "One? Is this a joke? Maybe they're surrendering." But the signal was real. Only one human ship had entered the battle zone. No escort, no backup, just one ship moving slowly. Grand Marshal Verena of the Sulthana raised an eyebrow. "Are they mocking us? Or hiding something?" she asked. The sensors tried to read the ship, but the data made no sense. The ship had no known energy signature. Its surface looked like black glass. No weapons could be seen, no name, no flag. "It's probably a broken probe," one officer said. But the youngest commander in the room, Captain Relm of the Zori, shook his head. "I've studied human ships. This one? It's different," he whispered. "It doesn't even show heat. Like it's dead." A small message blinked on the screen, encrypted but simple. No introduction, no threats. Just 5 words. "This is your only chance." The room went quiet. Then came the laughter again. Thousands of ships ready for war, and humans had sent just one. Across the fleets, the soldiers relaxed. "Easy win," they joked. But not all were laughing. Old veterans, those who had fought humans before, felt a chill. On one ship, an aged Zarn warrior whispered, "The humans. They don't bluff." But no one listened. The single human ship kept moving forward. Not fast, not slow. Like it was not in a hurry. Like it didn't care. Alien drones moved toward it to scan and record. But they never returned. No explosions. No gunfire, just silence. Then, one ship in the front line vanished. No flash, no sound, just gone. Followed by another. And another. "Who is firing?" shouted one captain, who gave the order. Yelled another, but no shots had been fired. No weapons were seen. The one human ship floated in space. Still quiet. Still alone. Panic began to spread. Admiral Creel smashed his fist on the table. "Attack. All ships. Destroy that thing." But some were already turning around. Some captains wanted no part in this. They had read the human history books. They knew what Earth did when it got serious. Captain Relm stared at the black ship. He didn't blink, he didn't speak, he only thought one thing. Why? Why did the humans only send one? It didn't glow, it didn't hum, it simply drifted forward. The single human ship had entered the heart of the galaxy's biggest fleet, and it didn't care. Hundreds of alien commanders were now watching it closely. They used every scanner, every sensor, every spy probe they had. But the ship refused to speak, refused to answer, refused to be understood. "It has no name," said a technician. Confused? No registration code, no signal beacon, no ID signature. "How is that possible?" asked Grand Marshal Verena. "Every ship must have a registry, but this one didn't." Its hull looked smooth like black stone. No windows, no lights, just one long ship, silent and cold. "It looks ancient," said Captain Relm, but it's new too. He couldn't explain it. No one could. The sensors reported nothing. No life forms inside. No energy being used. No weapons, no shields. But at the same time, it gave off impossible readings as if time and space bent around it. Maybe it's a ghost ship, someone joked nervously. But the joke didn't make anyone laugh. Another fleet commander, Admiral Broca of the Trelg, decided to test it. Send 6 destroyers, he ordered. Surround it, scan it from all sides. The 6 ships flew in close, weapons ready. They circled the human ship like hunters, but the human ship did nothing. It just floated like a dead leaf in space. Then, all 6 destroyers froze. Literally, engines off. Weapons off, crew not moving, as if time inside those ships had stopped. What just happened? Cried an officer. Are they dead? Then, one by one, the destroyers cracked like glass. They didn't explode. They shattered into 1,000 glowing pieces and faded like dust. Gone Verena stood slowly, her voice shaking. Are we dealing with a god? The youngest officer in the room, a translator from a peaceful species, whispered, no. We're dealing with a human experiment. A quiet chill passed through the command center. Explain, Creel demanded. The translator cleared her throat. I've read old human files, the ones they tried to erase. There was a project long ago. A forbidden ship, a ship not meant to travel or fight, but to erase. The old files told of a test weapon, a human ship so dangerous that even Earth banned it. They had hidden it, locked it away. Some say it was made with black hole matter. Some say it had a living mind. Some say it was made to punish the gods themselves. But, she added, the project was shut down. They promised to never use it. Then why now? Verena asked softly. No one had the answer, but deep down, all of them felt the same thing. This was not war anymore. This was judgment. Suddenly, the human ship moved again, just slightly, but enough to make thousands of alien ships flinch. A small hatch opened underneath its black surface. Nothing came out. No lights, no drones, just silence. Then, a message played not across the radios, but directly into the minds of every living commander. A calm human voice, male, steady, and cold. You invaded our space. You threatened our home. We sent one ship because that is all you deserve. The voice ended. No screams, no warnings, just a quiet judgment all over the fleets. Panic began. Ships backed away. Some fired blindly into the darkness. Others tried to run. But one thing was clear now. This was not just a ship. This was a message, and that message was terrifying. It said, we don't need many. We only need one. Captain Realm stood at his console, his hands trembling. He turned to his superior and whispered the words none of them wanted to say out loud. What if they have more like it? Open fire, shouted Admiral Creel, his face red with rage, but no one moved, no one dared. The single human ship still floated in silence. It didn't move, didn't glow, didn't respond. Yet thousands of ships around it felt fear-like. Never before, the commanders of the 12 great species argued over the call to attack. Fire now, before it destroys more of us. Barked the Zarkoth leader. It's a trick, a bluff. Snapped another, but deep down, many of them knew the truth. This was not a bluff. Then, a second message appeared. This time on every screen, every visor, every display. The words were simple, but they made every heart stop. Leave now, or never leave again. For a moment, there was silence across the entire fleet. No one moved, no one breathed. Even the war-hungry Vorkon ships held their fire. What gives them this much confidence? Whispered Verena, one ship can't win against millions. But then a voice came this time. A voice from the past, from the edge of the room. An old alien scholar stepped forward. His skin was pale, his eyes wide with memory. I know. That ship, he said. I saw it once, long ago. All eyes turned to him. He had been quiet the whole meeting. Now he walked slowly to the center. His steps heavy, they call it. The Requiem, it was never meant to fight battles. It was meant to end wars. The old scholar told the story long ago, before humans joined the Galactic Council. There had been a silent war, a shadow conflict between the old empire and a new power Earth. The humans had lost colonies, families, entire cities. They begged for peace. But no one listened. So they made the Requiem. It only appeared once in history. In that one appearance, it erased an entire armada, 3,000 ships, gone in seconds. After that, the enemy surrendered without condition. Earth then locked the ship away, swore never to use it again, until now. But why now? Someone asked. The answer came in another message. This is not revenge. This is prevention. Then the ship finally acted. Not with lasers or missiles, not with sound or fire, but with silence. A bright starship from the J-Lock race moved. A little too close, just scanning, not attacking, and in one blink, it turned into dust. No explosion, just gone. That was the moment when panic truly began. Fleets moved back, orders were shouted. Some tried to leave the system, but the human ship had created a field of soft ripple across space that stopped every engine, not with force, but with something else. Like the rules of physics had changed on one small command vessel. A young alien cadet fell to his knees. He didn't cry, he just whispered, "We can't win this. We were never meant to." Then came the third message, this time in a voice that sounded older, colder, not angry, just tired. "We sent one ship because we didn't want to send more. This is your last warning." Admiral Creel slammed his fists against the screen. "We are warriors. We do not kneel to fear." But even his own officers were stepping back. They no longer believed in victory. They believed in survival. Some captains sent messages to Earth, begging for talks, for terms, for peace. But Earth did not reply. The human ship just stayed silent, watching, waiting, like a hunter who didn't need to chase. Captain Realm, the only one who had not spoken until now, looked around the room. "We pushed too far." He said, "We thought silence was weakness, but maybe it was mercy." And now, mercy was leaving. The next move would not be a warning. It would be the end. The fleets were frozen. Thousands of ships stood in perfect formation, but none dared to move forward. The human ship, dark as night, hovered at the center like a quiet shadow. No weapons were visible, no sounds, no energy. Blasts. Yet the fear was louder than any siren. Admiral Creel still shouted orders, but his voice was weak now. Officers glanced at one another, unsure if they should obey. Their ships were ready, yes, but their hearts were not. And then it happened. Quietly, without warning, a ripple in space. Soft and wide like a wave in still water. It spread out from the human ship. No flash, no sound, no fire. Just one invisible pulse. The first to vanish were the sensor drones, dozens, then hundreds. Gone in an instant, no debris, no signal, no heat, just erased. Then came the ships, one by one. Vessels near the human ship began to blink out of existence. No explosion, no scream, just gone. An alien crew on the command bridge of a Yorvac destroyer watched in terror as the ship beside them melted. Into nothingness, they tried to run, tried to activate shields, but their systems didn't respond. It was as if the laws of reality had been rewritten. Like this ship wasn't killing them, across the fleet, panic spread. Like wildfire, one commander shouted into the comms, "Retreat. Now, all ships, retreat." But the engines didn't start. The jump drives failed. The stars themselves flickered strangely outside the windows. It was as if the Requiem wasn't just a ship. It was a cage inside the main control center of the Alliance. Verina's hands were trembling. She had seen war, led invasions, fought with monsters. But this was something else. This was not war. This was punishment. The ripple grew again, a slow, expanding ring of silent death. Another dozen ships vanished. No one knew how. Some tried to fire back, missiles launched, lasers fired. But the weapons never reached the human ship. They simply stopped mid-flight and turned into dust. "What is this?" Creel shouted. "What kind of weapon can do this?" No one had the answer. Even the greatest scientists in the fleet had no words. They just stared at the screens, watching ships vanish one after another. And then, everything stopped. The Requiem halted its ripple. It didn't speak. It didn't move. It simply waited. The galaxy's greatest armada had been reduced to silence and fear. Hundreds of ships destroyed, the rest too afraid to move. And then, finally, one message came. This time, not from Earth, not from any human, but from the Requiem itself. A deep, soft voice filled every ship. Enough, it said. This was not to conquer. This was to remind. Captain Realm stood still as the message echoed inside his mind. No anger, no hate, just pure authority, like the voice of a judge or a god. You looked upon Earth and saw weakness. You saw silence and thought it meant fear. But silence was restraint, and kindness was a choice. On board alien ships, crews began to cry, not from pain, but from shame. Because deep down, they knew which was all true. They had mocked humanity, pushed them, tested them. And now they were seeing the cost. The Requiem's final message came in one line: "Do not return." And then it turned, slowly, like it had all the time in the universe. It didn't flee. It didn't hide. It simply left unharmed, untouched, undefeated behind it. A galaxy of silence. The fleets didn't chase it. They didn't speak. They just watched it vanish into the stars. Some say they felt the stars breathe again once it was gone. Others say they heard a sound like a soft weeping echo across the void. But one thing was now written deep into the minds of every species. Earth doesn't need armies. Earth doesn't need words. Earth only needs one ship. The command room was quiet, not from victory, but from shame. The greatest armada in galactic history had been shattered. Not by weapons, not by fleets, but by one single human ship. Some called it a demon, some called it a ghost, but a few remembered its real name. Requiem. Captain Realm stood near the viewing screen. Stars drifted outside, but his eyes were somewhere else. Deep in thought, deep in memory, his voice finally broke the silence. "There are stories," he said softly. "Old ones. Told in whispers across my homeworld." Everyone turned to him. No one dared interrupt. Not now, not after what they had seen. "My grandfather was a war historian," Realm continued. "He once showed me a broken recording. It had no date, no location, only shadows and screams. And in the middle of it, a black ship." Realm tapped the screen. "The same ship we just saw." No one spoke. He went on. "He said there was once a powerful empire, later than any race here. They ruled the stars with pride, cruelty, and arrogance. They thought they were untouchable. They attacked Earth when humans were still new to the stars. They expected no resistance. They got Requiem instead." He paused, his fingers trembling. "That empire disappeared within a single day. Not just their ships, but their moons, their memory. Their language, gone." The silence in the room deepened. Even Creel, who once called humans insects, was pale now. What kind of species creates something like that? He whispered, "And why would they ever stop using it?" Realm gave a bitter smile, because it scared them too. Even the humans feared what they made. A new voice entered the room, old, rough, and full of regret. It was High Scholar Velthus of the Itari, a species so old. Their archives held knowledge from forgotten centuries. I have seen the Requiem before, he said, stepping forward slowly, not with my own eyes. But through records we sealed long ago, he placed a glowing crystal on the center table. A blue hologram floated above it, a battlefield of stars, thousands of alien ships. One human vessel in the center, no sounds, just light, and then darkness. In the year 4782 galactic cycle, Velthos began. There was a silent purge. A powerful empire tried to take the Sol system. Earth didn't send fleets. Earth didn't send ambassadors. They sent Requiem, the hologram. Changed worlds blinked out. Nebulas collapsed. Ships shattered like glass. There was no war, the scholar said. There was only a lesson. But why bring it back now? Asked Verena. Earth hasn't used that ship in centuries. Velthos turned to her. Because we forced their hand. We mocked them, cornered them, pushed them. They gave us chances, diplomacy, silence, patience, but we kept poking the sleeping lion, Reln added. They only woke Requiem because they didn't want war. They wanted to stop one, outside. Fleets were slowly pulling away, silent ships drifting back toward their home systems. No victory. Songs. No flags raised, only quiet retreat across the galaxy. Messages were being sent in every language. Do not provoke Earth again. They only sent one ship. That should be enough to understand. In some parts of space, shrines were built. Not to worship the Requiem, but to remember what? It meant to remember what could have happened if it had not stopped. Captain Reln looked once more at the stars. He spoke softly, almost like a prayer. Mercy is when a sword is held back. But everyone sees how sharp it is. The command room was quiet, not from victory, but from shame. The greatest armada in galactic history had been shattered, not by weapons, not by fleets, but by one single human ship. Some called it a demon, some called it a ghost, but a few remembered its real name. Requiem. Captain Reln stood near the viewing screen. Stars drifted outside, but his eyes were somewhere else. Deep in thought, deep in memory, his voice finally broke the silence. There are stories, he said softly. Old ones. Told in whispers across my homeworld. Everyone turned to him. No one dared interrupt. Not now, not after what they had seen. My grandfather was a war historian. Reln continued. He once showed me a broken recording. It had no date, no location, only shadows and screams. And in the middle of it, a black ship. Reln tapped the screen. The same ship we just saw. No one spoke. He went on. He said there was once a powerful empire, later than any race here. They ruled the stars with pride, cruelty, and arrogance. They thought they were untouchable. They attacked Earth when humans were still new to the stars. They expected no resistance. They got Requiem instead. He paused, his fingers trembling. That empire disappeared within a single day. Not just their ships, but their moons, their memory. Their language, gone. The silence in the room deepened. Even Creel, who once called humans insects, was pale now. What kind of species creates something like that? He whispered, and why would they ever stop using it? Reln gave a bitter smile because it scared them too. Even the humans feared what they made. A new voice entered the room, old, rough, and full of regret. It was High Scholar Velthos of the Itari, a species so old. Their archives held knowledge from forgotten centuries. I have seen the Requiem before, he said, stepping forward slowly, not with my own eyes. But through records we sealed long ago, he placed a glowing crystal on the center table. A blue hologram floated above it, a battlefield of stars, thousands of alien ships. One human vessel in the center. No sounds, just light, and then darkness. In the year 4782 galactic cycle, Velthos began. There was a silent purge. A powerful empire tried to take the Sol system. Earth didn't send fleets. Earth didn't send ambassadors. They sent Requiem, the hologram. Changed worlds blinked out. Nebulas collapsed. Ships shattered like glass. There was no war, the scholar said. There was only a lesson. But why bring it back now? Asked Farina. Earth hasn't used that ship in centuries. Velthus turned to her, because we forced their hand. We mocked them, cornered them, pushed them. They gave us chances, diplomacy, silence, patience, but we kept poking the sleeping lion. Reln added. They only woke Requiem because they didn't want war. They wanted to stop one. Outside, fleets were slowly pulling away, silent. Ships drifting back toward their home systems, no victory songs, no flags raised, only quiet retreat across the galaxy. Messages were being sent in every language. Do not provoke Earth again. They only sent one ship that should be enough to understand. In some parts of space, shrines were built. Not to worship the Requiem, but to remember what? It meant to remember what could have happened if it had not stopped. Captain Reln looked once more at the stars. He spoke softly, almost like a prayer. Mercy is when a sword is held back, but everyone sees how sharp it is. The human ship had vanished into deep space. No sound, no trail, no signal. It left as quietly as it had arrived. But its silence spoke louder than any war cry ever could across the galaxy. The message it left behind began to spread. Not through words, but through fear, on planet after planet. Council chambers held emergency meetings. Military leaders argued in whispers. Religious leaders lit candles and prayed to unknown stars. What they had seen was not just a weapon. It was a message, and now everyone wanted to know what it meant. In a peaceful system called Thuray, a communication station picked up something strange. A data stream, pure and clean, not encrypted, not hidden, just open. Like it wanted to be seen, the signal played the same on every world it reached. The image was Commerth, seen from space, blue and beautiful. Then came the voice, soft, steady, human, to the people of the stars. We are not your enemy. You looked at Earth and saw silence. You called it weakness, but we chose peace. Not because we could not fight, but because we no longer wanted to. The image changed. Children playing in green parks, old humans walking by quiet lakes. Ships carrying food, not weapons. You sent fleets to test us. You threatened our home. And so we answered, not with armies, but with memory. Now came the Requiem, floating in the middle of stars. But not attacking, just waiting. This was your reminder that the galaxy does not belong to those who shout the loudest, but to those who know when to stay silent. The voice paused. Then it said words that would be remembered for generations. We sent one ship. Because one was enough, the transmission ended. No threats, no promises, just truth. In the weeks that followed, hundreds of alien races responded. Some sent messages of apology. Others declared neutrality with Earth. A few even offered alliance. Treaties on the diplomatic channels. One phrase became common. We do not wish to see Requiem again, in distant corners of space. Curious species tried to study what kind of power the ship used. Some said it bent gravity. Others said it used something older than physics. A few whispered that it was alive, but none found the answer because the humans never explained. They didn't brag. They didn't threaten. They simply returned to silence. Captain Reln sat quietly in his quarters. He watched the message again and again, not because he didn't understand it, but because he wanted to feel that moment of truth. Again. He had spent his life preparing for war, learning strategies, weapons, weaknesses. But all it took was one ship to teach him that power isn't always loud. Sometimes, real power is the choice not to destroy. Elsewhere, Verena stood before her soldiers and removed her command badge. "I led you into a battle we never needed to fight," she said. "I let pride blind me." She wasn't the only one. Admirals, generals, politicians, many resigned. Some went into exile. Others spent the rest of their lives writing books. About that one ship, the name Requiem was now carved into history. Not as a weapon, but as a turning point. Schools began to teach a new rule. Never mistake silence for weakness, back on Earth. The people didn't celebrate. There were no parades, no news flashes. The Requiem returned to its secret orbit, hidden once more. Inside the quiet halls of Earth's space agency, one old man stood alone. He placed his hand on a black screen and whispered. They listened, and the screen answered, not in sound, but in light. A soft glow that faded slowly. No one dared to speak Earth's name without respect anymore. It was not fear. It was understanding. The galaxy was quiet. War drums had stopped. Blades had been lowered. And for the first time in centuries, the stars held peace. It was not signed with ink or handshakes. It was signed in silence. The kind of silence that comes after something terrible almost happens, but doesn't. The Requiem had returned to its slumber, hidden once again, somewhere near Earth. But no one knew exactly where, and no one wanted to find out. The galaxy called it the Silent Treaty, an agreement with no papers, no signatures, just a shared promise. Do not test humanity again. Alien rulers met quietly in dark halls. They spoke. In low voices, some wept, others swore to change. The Requiem had not destroyed them, but it had changed them, on a moon base in Sector 9. An alien journalist spoke to his audience through a galactic broadcast. "We have learned something today," he said. "Not about war, but about restraint. Humanity did not ask to be feared," he continued. "They asked to be left alone. And we refused across 10,000 systems." Those words were repeated, translated, whispered, taught in schools. No race wanted to forget what they had seen, and no one wanted their children to live through it again. A few curious scientists tried to explain what the Requiem really was. They sent theories into the data web. Was it a sentient ship? A piece of dark matter technology? A leftover weapon from an ancient time? But Earth answered none of them. They gave no comment, no speech, no message, just silence. And that silence was louder than any reply. Captain Realm returned to his homeworld when he stepped out of the transport ship. People clapped not because he fought, but because he didn't. Because he told the truth when no one wanted to listen. He wrote only one book. Its title was simple. The Day One ship was enough. It sold across star systems in every known language. Not as a warning, but as a lesson. Verena, once known as a warrior queen, gave up her title. She became a teacher, and her first lesson to every new student was, pride will always be heavier than peace. Even Admiral Creel, proud and loud as he had been, lived in silence. He never commanded again. He often sat near his ship's observation window, looking at the stars. And sometimes he would whisper, "They only sent one." And that was enough to shake empires back on Earth. Nothing changed. Children still played in the parks. Elders drank tea by the lakes. Farmers grew food in quiet towns. Soldiers stood ready, but not proud. Because Requiem was never used for glory, it was used for peace. In a small control room beneath Earth's surface, one young officer stood beside the black wall. On the wall was a simple button. Protected by layers of security, he asked the old general next to him, "Sir, what if they come again?" The general looked at him and smiled. "They won't," he said. "And if they do, they already know what waits." The officer paused. "But why did we only send one?" The general looked out the window at the stars. His eyes were tired, but calm. And he answered with a voice as soft as the void, "Because mercy is strongest." When you show how easy it would have been not to give it, the stars blinked above Earth. Watching, remembering, and somewhere out there, Requiem slept. Not as a monster, not as a weapon, but as a reminder. A reminder that some lines should never be crossed, and some silences should never be broken.